Hey folks, it's Jeremy, the host of Blammo. Thanks so much for listening. This is a preview of one of our exclusive shows on Patreon. These are member-supported shows, meaning they only happen because of our incredible members and community. So check out a preview of the episode, and if you like it, consider joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/Blammo, where we have tons of exclusive Blammo episodes, shows, our amazing Slack group, and we're adding new things for members all the time. If not, no worries, we still love you, and we literally have hundreds of episodes of Blammo all free for you to dive into. Thanks so much.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Workwear podcast. My name is Derek Guy, and my co-host is Peter Zotello. So this episode is a supplement to an article I recently wrote for Mr. Porter, which you can find on their website by searching for the title, How to Build a Sustainable Wardrobe to Get You Through 2024 and 2034. Sometimes other writers will reach out to me to get a quote for a story about sustainability, and they'll ask me about production processes and materials. But I often tell them that I think a lot of writing on this topic focuses too much on the production end and not enough on the consumer end. To me, sustainability is about both. A lot of people discard clothes well before the end of their useful life, not because the item bears a material defect, but because the wearer has lost interest in wearing the item. In this episode, Peter and I talk about the concept of emotional durability, which we've touched on in previous episodes but flesh out more here. Emotional durability is about honing your emotional antenna so that you buy things that make you just as excited in 10 years as they do today. To me, this is the crux of sustainability, buying things that you'll love to wear. Peter and I discuss ways to do that. Let's dive in.
Hey, Derek. Good to see you again. How are things?
It's good. How are you, Peter?
I'm well. I really like that sweater that you're wearing. Is that from the Naomi Glasses Ralph Lauren collaboration?
It is. I bought it a while back. I bought this sweater, which is the wool linen sweater that they sold, and a pair of the dark brown garment dyed jeans from the Naomi Glasses collaboration at Ralph Lauren. I bought it around the time of Black Friday, although it wasn't included in the sale. And I admit, sometimes I buy things with the intention of, or not the intention, but I expect that I'm going to return it. Because sometimes I just want to check something out. And when the sweater came, I was like, I unfortunately have to keep it because
it looks great.
I really like the yarn. It's a wool linen yarn. So one of the upsides of a wool linen yarn is that you get this kind of like, you get the dry, crunchy texture of linen, and then you get a bit of the kind of the quality, the springback quality of wool. But the problem with this specific sweater, the one downside of this sweater is that since they include so much linen, you lose the natural crimp that's in animal hair, which means that the sweater doesn't have as much springback quality. So I have this thing where I don't like sweaters that sit too low on me.
Like where do you like them to hit?
I think a sweater should hit you right around the waist, basically where your trouser waistband hits.
Yeah, I agree.
And
that's tough to do if you get ready to wear.
Yeah, it's not a problem for wool because you can always either block the sweater or and blocking sweater just means you wet it and then kind of shape it into the shape that you want. But specifically for a wool sweater, you have that kind of like elasticated hem and you just adjust it on your body. So you place the hem wherever you want.
And that's where it lies.
And that's where it lies. But the problem with the wool linen sweater is that it doesn't have as much tension as a pure wool sweater.
So it just tends to stretch and stretch and stretch.
It just falls down over time, right? So what I ended up doing was placing the band where I wanted and then tucking the sweater into itself and then just sewing it.
You sewed it?
Yeah. So I sewed it. You can basically just do these kind of like pin, I don't know how you describe it on a podcast, but you basically just, you don't have to sew it all the way across. If you have a sweater that stretches down too much, just imagine what a sweater looks like when it's adjusted on your hem, when the hem is adjusted on your body, and then just pin it. And then when you take the sweater off, just sew, I don't know, like I did maybe 6 to 8 kind of like thread kind of pins on the sweater to staple it essentially where I want it to be. And it basically looks just as it would when somebody's wearing a sweater and, they've adjusted the hem on their body.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell. I never knew you to be such a crafty guy.
Thanks. I'm a bespoke craftsman now.
Guess those home economic classes paid off.
The other thing that this sweater has opened my mind to is, as extremely corny as the phrase is, it's opened up my mind to the idea of having a pop of color in an outfit.
I can't believe you said that.
Because I normally wear really drab browns and grays and blues. And I think especially even in the winter, if you have a really drab outfit, it can be kind of nice, as corny as it is, to have an apple green sweater or a red sweater, an orange sweater. And you can find these from J Press. J Press does really colorful shaggy dogs. Another one that's really good is this company called the Carrier Company.
I haven't heard of that.
It's a UK company, and they specialize in, I guess you kind of roughly describe it as gardening clothes. They have these really colorful, large tartan chore coats, wool chore coats that look fantastic.
Really?
But they also have Shetland sweaters in really bright colors that I think can be nice if somebody is just looking for, a little bit of happiness during the colder seasons. So if you're wearing, let's say, just imagine if you're wearing brown trousers and a big gray wool overcoat. If you just include a red or apple green sweater underneath, it just looks a little bit more cheerful in the winter months. So this sweater has opened my mind to that. And then I also recently bought, and this was way back during the Black Friday sale, but I bought a pair of the DMA, I think they're called the Vet Sport or Roca Vet Sport hiking boots. And they come in I think it's called the oak colorway, and it's a shaggy suede.
Are those the boots that you wore here?
Yeah.
Those look really cool. Those are very shaggy.
Yeah.
But in a good way.
The funny thing about these, Non-Native did these shaggy suede boots a while ago.
I remember those.
And I really, really liked them. But I didn't want to deal with overseas footwear sizing and
You're right, trying to guess your size.
Yeah, I just figured it was a huge hassle. So I've been looking for shaggy suede shoes, and those were a great way to incorporate them because it's not full shag. It's just the top of boot. It's just the top of the boot. And the funny thing is when you wear them and you look down, you feel like you're a bear. You feel like
you look like a bear.
You feel like a teddy bear because you've got these shaggy brown things on your feet. I think they're really fun. A few other companies use this suede. I think Truman Boots has used the suede. Viberg may have used the suede, but it's just a very, very shaggy suede. If people look up Oak DMA, DIEMME, they'll probably see it. And I think they're just it's just a fun material.
It looks good. And
Thanks.
The sweater does too.
Thanks.
The pants that you said that you got, garment dyed.
Yeah.
Brown. Are they moleskin? Are they more of a drier twill?
It's somewhat sort of like a slightly softer, thicker brushed denim.
Okay.
It's not as fuzzy as moleskin, but it's got a really nice kind of broken in feel, and one of the few jeans that I've put on that I like wearing with sport coats because it's a slightly higher rise and just a very straight classic leg that I think works easily with tailored sport coats. The problem with saying that is that they're going to be very hard to find at this point.
Sold out, aren't they?
Yeah, they're sold out. So I hope that Ralph Lauren releases another model in this cut because it'd be a great thing to recommend with sport coats. Have you gotten anything recently that you've enjoyed?
I have. I got a pair of Todd Snyder moleskin carpenter pants in white. Hugely impractical. But because they are going to get dirty very soon if they're not dirty already. But they're supremely comfortable and they have a really nice full cut, not like the typical carpenter jeans that you see now, more like the older carpenter jeans that I used to buy when I was an apprentice, just the Carpenter Carhartt jeans. But these are much softer, much more comfortable. They probably will last equally as long as the carpenter jeans that I've worn on the job site, but I don't think I'll be wearing them there. I would much rather wear these as I am right now, just inside the house, around town, nothing too crazy.
For a company owned by American Eagle and probably does millions in sales, they do a lot of interesting niche styles. Because normally when you're that large of a company, you have to do these kind of very watered down,
like slim fit, like flat front chinos because you have to pay rent and you have to, like pay your investors and all that.
Because crazy doesn't sell, not always.
Yeah. And it's not even like those pants aren't even that crazy, but it's just, that's not something that you'd expect from a company owned by American Eagle. I'm often impressed by what they do.
They have done a lot of things out of the ordinary, nothing too extreme, but these Carpenter jeans are one example. They also did a collaboration, as they normally do each year, with Private White. And they resurrected a style from Private White, two this past season. One was their great coat or officer's coat, which is amazing, but it came in a green that doesn't really work with my wardrobe, especially because I already have a green great coat from Frank Leader. But they also released a collaboration with them in their Jeep coat, which is really cool. It's a typical Jeep coat. So a Jeep coat, for those of
Wait, that Jeep coat is a collab with Todd Snyder?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You could buy that Jeep coat off of Todd Snyder's site?
Yes, you can. Or Private White. Either one.
That's surprising.
It's amazing. It is the warmest jacket I have. And I have shearlings that are very warm. This one puts them all to shame. I don't know what it is. They line it with a really heavy wool, cotton, polyester, fluffy mix. And then it's also filled with a polyester filling, for lack of a better term.
Can you explain what is a Jeep coat?
Often in menswear, things are influenced by military garments, and then they make their way into civilian clothes. This one was kind of the other way around. These types of coats were around and used by regular laborers, outdoor laborers, lumberjacks, outdoorsmen.
It's like a Pacific Northwestern
Very
stuff.
much so.
Yeah.
And you see a little bit of that. Ralph Lauren obviously does that. You don't see it much elsewhere. It used to be more common. Old Abercrombie Fitch used to do it. Woolrich used to do it. And it is generally a short coat because it was adopted by the military to be used to go in and out of Jeeps. And you don't want to be wearing a long coat when you're going in and out of a military vehicle. So it's a shorter coat just past your rear, double-breasted, similar to a pea coat, but instead of a notched lapel, it's a shawl lapel. You can button it all the way up, and it's extremely warm if you do, but generally speaking, no. It's one of those few coats that normally looks better closed. I am with you on most jackets look better open, but this one, particularly the one that they've done with Private White, is so bulky that you end up looking like the Michelin Man if you wear it open. So if you're into this kind of jacket, there are a million iterations out there. I'm sure you can get a Jeep coat off of eBay for relatively inexpensive. There's military surplus out there, but even then they're not very common. This one is filled with a polyester fill. It's also lined with a wool cotton polyester lining. It is just so warm. It is easily the warmest jacket that I have. And it's also much longer than your typical Jeep coat. This one goes past my knees. So it is something that I would wear on the coldest of days in the darkest corners of Antarctica. And I would probably still be warm. I might do a couple burpees just in case I got to chill, but it is an extremely warm jacket. This one is in a khaki color with a cream shearling collar. And I'm excited about that.
They debuted that at London Fashion Week a few years ago. I first saw it on a woman model on their website, and then it debuted at London Fashion Week. And I was like, wow, they're like the company's flagship design is that twin track jacket, which I think looks nice. But for what I would personally buy, their Jeep coat was like on my list for a while. And I just, for some reason, never ended up buying it. But the original version was made, I think, from like a heavy Melton. It was like a wool or something.
That would be very impressive because this is a heavy jacket as it is.
Yeah.
It's Ventile. So it's practically waterproof. It is warm for any kind of climate you find yourself in. If it was also in Melton, that would be indestructible.
I think that coat looks really good with like a pair of jeans and like a chunky sweater.
Yes.
It's got, I guess, like if you ever look at those like Filson ads, I mean, you don't even have to go back. If you just go to Filson's site, they always have like these like burly guys like doing burly guy things, whatever burly guys do. But if you find those photos inspiring, you probably would like a Jeep coat because that style derives from like Filson, Packer coats. Like, it's like what like, I don't know, like a cow rancher logger would wear in like, the Pacific Northwest or something. Yeah, it's a really cool coat. I'm impressed that it was sold on Todd Snyder's site. Again, just a surprising amount of niche designs on a company owned by American Eagle.
They do a few things that are really impressive, and the credit goes to the designer, obviously. He had a fashion show at Pitti this year, and he's also collaborating with Woolrich to have a series of jackets and clothes with them. So the design team is really good. They do things that anyone could wear, and then they do things that are a little different, but still very cool, not avant-garde, very wearable.
Yeah.
But not your typical things that you would find in a mall store.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing how those jeans are broken in.
Yeah. I think part of the nice thing about buying certain clothes is that they kind of age with you. And they end up being something that you enjoy more, over time. They become part of your identity and your wardrobe.
And that's something that you wrote about recently, right?
Yeah, I recently wrote something for Mr. Porter. My editor wanted me to kind of think of like a recap of, like menswear trends in 2023 or whatever. And I kind of was like, I don't know, I sort of, to be honest, sometimes think like a lot of trend writing is made up. Like they'll say like this is happening, and I just don't think that's happening. Like I look outside and I don't see anyone doing that.
Right.
So
the Super Mario boots never took off?
Yeah, I'm just sort of like, sometimes it's just like, I don't know. I don't really want to do trend reporting. But I do think that menswear has changed a lot in the last 20 years. So I pitched this to her. I said, well, what if I don't talk about 2023 trends, but I talk about how menswear has changed, where in the early 2000s, a lot of menswear writing was about quality, buying classics, buying timeless things that you could wear forever. And like all the blogs were doing like these factory visits and like breakdowns on how things were made, classic designs that your grandpa wore or whatever.
Yeah.
And then by around I would say 2012, that started to break down and people started to shift more towards designer clothing and streetwear.
Right.
And then now we're at this period where, supposedly there are no trends, but that's up for debate. But so I pitched this to her. I said, well, what if I wrote an article about this idea of emotional durability, which is something I read from a design theorist named Jonathan Chapman. And it's this idea that more than just the kind of like construction durability that menswear writers were talking about in the early 2000s, there's this idea of emotional durability, which is how do you relate to an item? How do you enjoy using it? Does it have meaning in your life? Is it something that you want to keep around? And so John Chapman was building on this idea by a mid-century social theorist named Vance Packard, who wrote a book called The Wastemakers. And so even if most people haven't heard of Vance Packard or The Wastemakers, they've probably heard of the term planned obsolescence.
Yes.
And Vance Packard wrote about how during the Great Depression, economists and theorists were coming up with ideas how to get people to spend again. But by the 1960s, obviously we had the Great Depression well behind us, and people were just buying a lot of stuff to replace things that they didn't need to replace. And Vance Packard felt that this was, he felt that it was immoral because he felt that it was creating a lot of waste. And he talked about different types of obsolescence. So one obsolescence is like technological obsolescence. So for example, you could use your smartphone for years and years, but then at some point, even if the smartphone itself works, it might not connect to your cellular network. It's just like you have to replace the phone because it's like technologically it's out of date. But there is another type of obsolescence where Vance Packard wrote about how marketers, it's easier to come up with ideas of advancements to sell people on the idea that something is obsolete than come up with technological advancements. So Apple is kind of notorious for this because they'll make very, very small changes and then everyone wants to update, even though your old item works totally fine.
Right.
And so he came up with these terms of, I can't remember the other two terms he came up with, but they all kind of fell into this idea of planned obsolescence, where a marketer is trying to sell you on the idea that something is no longer good because of either a small technological improvement that may not even be that big of a deal. Or it's just like, it comes in a new color and the old color is not as good anymore. And that's basically like a lot of fashion, right? Like a lot of fashion runs on the idea of this obsolescence.
Look new, don't look like your dad.
Yeah, like, 10 years ago, slim fit, now it's wide fit. 10 years ago, it was like double monks. Now it's whatever. I don't know what the shoe is, loafers or whatever.
You don't want to look dated.
Yeah, you don't want to look dated. So Vance Packard had written on this idea, and John Chapman was building on this idea of emotional durability, of how do you get consumers. He was also writing for designers. He was talking to designers about how do you build something so that there is room for a consumer to essentially like grow with the item. So denim is a really good example. Raw denim is a really good example in the sense that you buy raw denim, and if you're into raw denim, then you kind of grow attached to the jeans because you like how they look over time.
And all the time that you've spent into them.
Yeah, like the fades are very personalized.
Yeah.
They've molded to you. They feel like you. So when the crotch blows out or the knee blows out, you want to get them repaired. You don't want to throw them away and buy new ones. You want to save these as long as possible. So John Chapman obviously was not writing about clothes. He was writing about other things, but I was trying to apply his idea of emotional durability, which is kind of the concept in a nutshell of emotional durability is how do you...
Want to hear the rest? Listen to the full episode and many more other exclusive episodes over on our Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Blamo to sign up and join the Blam fam. You also get access to our exclusive members-only Slack group where we chat about this and a ton of other things. So head over to patreon.com/Blamo and we'll see you there.